If you are listening to this podcast, it means you're searching for someone who understands you, someone who gets you. You are yearning to be understood and to belong. Welcome to the Someone Gets Me podcast, where we help smart, talented, and sensitive people navigate an often insensitive world. I am Dianne A, your host. My roles as ambassador, author, speaker, and intuitive mentor for bright and talented people are woven into each episode. I have the experience and knowledge to educate and inspire, as I have been there and I understand your unique intensities, sensitivities, and challenges. Welcome. Hi friends, it's Dianne here. And today at Someone Gets Me, we are going to talk about becoming even more empowered as a gifted and neurodivergent person. See, sometimes we play small or we do not step into our own sovereignty because of history or autobiography or a situation. And doing those things in order to protect our emotions and our well-being is totally cool. And there are ways to become even more empowered as neurodivergent people so that we can be seen and heard in the society, in our families, in our workplace. So I have some ideas about how to become even more empowered. Now, the first idea I have is which is kind of hard for some of us, is to listen more and talk less. Meaning, take time to listen to what's going on, listen to what somebody's saying, but also listen to what's not being said, or listening for the thing that's being intentionally left out, maybe, or a distraction, what's the other side of the story. So we want to speak less and listen more. That doesn't mean that our words are trite. It doesn't mean that we should not speak. It means to absorb listening and then talk. And so I think when we pay attention to that, what we start to notice is there are so many things going on all around us that our exceptional qualities about us, our neurodivergence, our ADHD, all of those pieces, our intuition, picks up these things. So when we listen first and then speak, we're giving ourselves time to allow our inherent gifts to have a voice within us, which then will make anything we say out loud much more effective, and we will feel more heard. The second thing I want to talk about is what I call moving in silence. And that means that exactly that we learn how to make our decisions, have our trusted inner circle, and do things without announcing them to everybody. I have a couple people I work with, and they have great ideas. And the first thing I want to go do is tell everybody all about their great ideas. In fact, I do that sometimes too. But what I realize is when we do that, there are times and situations where we're giving our power away to those other people. So it's much more powerful, I think, and empowering if we move in silence a little bit, make our decisions, set our plans, know what's going on, have one or two trusted people that are part of our inner circle, and then move in silence as far as the others are concerned. And I find when I do that my peace and calm level go up, and I run into less naysayers, because there's a lot of people who can only see their own way. And so if you're going to come up with this grand idea, that's in your heart. Other people who can't see it may try to sway you away from the very thing you're called to do. So moving in silence pays off. And it helps us remain empowered, helps us stand in our sovereignty. It helps us as neurodivergent people who live in a world of nuance to be able to really step into our own empowered self And that's the point of this podcast today, is to be even more empowered, to stand in who we are and know who we are on those deeper levels. Now, another thing that I want to talk about, oh yes, is managing our time effectively. And that can be tricky for some people. Like, I just had a friend visiting for a while, and I'm a time optimist. In fact, we laughed about it. And for me, the phrase time optimism means that I think I can get much more done in less time than is reasonable. And it's really kind of funny because that's what happened. I had all of these plans for my friend's visit, and we got a lot of it done, a lot of the fun things done, and all of that. And at the same time, near the end of the visit, there was this part of me that felt a little sad, kind of, a little bit because my friend was leaving town, but also because I didn't get done all those things that my brain told me I should get done. And my brain was making up these big stories, these things about things that needed to be done, when my time with my friend was the most valuable of all of it. So we, as neurodivergent gifted people, often are time optimists. We think we can get something done in faster time than we actually can, or we try to cram too many things in on a day. I mean, I remember one time I wrote a to-do list for a Saturday morning and it had 25 things on it. Some of those things would have taken 4 or 5 hours. It's not even possible in human form. And so managing our time effectively is a way to stay empowered. Now, I laugh about how I overplanned my visit with my friend because I had so many cool ideas. That's a little different than when you're trying to manage your time day to day with responsibilities, things we have to do, making sure that we're on time for appointments or things that are necessary for our work or school, making sure that we're managing our time and being respectful of our family and friends when we're ready to go out or go do something. And are we on time? Are we paying attention to the needs of others and our own needs when it comes to time? So all those things, there's so many different ways we can look at it. But I think what matters is that we are effective in this. And that if you find yourself making excuses for always being late or not having things done or all of those things, you might want to look at how effectively you're managing your time and give things some priority. Uh, because it's important, if you want to be empowered, to be able to have your yes mean yes, your no means no, and not to live in an overcommitted world. I had somebody who wanted to work in my company, and we played message tag for quite a while. And then finally I got a message that said, "I'm sorry, I haven't gotten back to you. I am so spread so thin because of course I overcommit myself." That tells me that this person is disempowering themselves by overcommitting, by not being true to what they said they were going to do for themselves on other areas as well. So that gave me a real insight into this gifted person. And a lot of us struggle with the time thing. And a lot of us have to have kind of guardrails up to help us stay focused or stay on time. So it's important to honor that in yourself and others. Another thing I want to talk about empowerment is to practice grounding yourself and making sure that you have time every day to decompress or be in a place of what we would call calm. Now, for me, I often will walk outside on the grass and stand barefooted on Mother Earth, or I'll stare at the moon at night, right? Or I'll breathe, or I'll take a nice warm bath. There's so many ways to calm and ground ourselves. So for all of us, it's a unique situation. What exactly are we going to do to ground ourselves, to feel calm, to come into who we are and be more and more empowered? Like sometimes at night, I like to light my fireplace and watch the flames, or I watch the flame on a candle. That helps ground me and helps me calm before I go to sleep. There's also meditations and Tai Chi and yoga and all different kinds of practices. But I think what's most important is that we have protected and dedicated time for grounding ourselves, for calming our nervous system, whether it's using music or finding a way to breathe into that, or humming will help it too. There's all kinds of things. But what are you doing on a regular, consistent basis to be calm, to ground yourself, to allow your whole being, all of your cells and your neurology and your thinking to settle. And for some of us, that's real tricky. That's real hard. And sometimes the more you try to settle, the more ramped up you get. That says there's some work to do to free some old stuff in there. And so the next thing I want to talk about is showing respect by observing better. It's easy as a neurodivergent person to see something and quickly run to a judgment about it or an assessment of it without letting it play out or paying attention. And for me, respecting another person or situation or entity is to give whatever it's happening time to unfold, and allowing ourselves to know that just because we think something is true doesn't make it true, or just because we think something is going to happen doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. What's most important is that we show respect for the process, respect for the position, respect for ourselves by having our yes mean yes, our no mean no, having healthy boundaries where we don't allow the squishiness of others to kind of impact us in a way that doesn't serve us. Self-respect is where respect starts. So I can always tell out there in the world when people are not being very respectful of others. The question I ask myself is, I wonder if they're respectful of themselves at all. Because if you're not respectful of other people, then I'll bet you there's a spot in you that's not respecting you. And our job as gifted people, as people that have a neurodivergence, a nervous system that is more tuned in and sensitive than the average, to be able to have more respect for ourselves and others. And sometimes it takes understanding that we have to have respect for ourselves while other people just don't understand us or don't get it. They don't have to. And it's our responsibility to maintain our own inner integrity, to maintain our own essence of who we are, and stand in our sovereignty, regardless of what the other person says or does. And that can be really tricky sometimes. So if you have any fear or anxiety or things like that that would dysregulate you, that can make these things more challenging. So what I suggest we do, all of us, is to spend more time every day grounding ourselves, to spend a little bit more time relaxing and being calm, to realizing that there's only so much that any of us can do, and we're not machines, to allow ourselves to be human beings rather than human doings, to allow ourselves to connect with others with nice eye contact, and still at the same time to realize that some of the important things to us, it's best to move in silence. I have a couple inner circle people. They know what I'm up to. Other than that, not everybody knows all the things I'm up to, especially professionally, because I have a history. And part of my autobiography is I have used to share everything with everybody, especially my other work-related kind of colleague friends. And what I've learned over time is there was a lot of plagiarism, or, some people would say they stole my ideas. I don't know if I'd go that far, but there was certainly a lot of copycatting going on before I even launched some of the things I talked about. And only a certain people knew about them. And so I learned very quickly that we have great influence. We as neurodivergent people have strong energy and strong inner light. That's why we're here, to bring that light, right? So sometimes if we say too much too soon, then when we end up having a human experience, it might be a little tricky. So moving in silence really pays off. And we want to have self-respect and then respect for others. And one of the other things I want to talk about too is observing more. We're very observant people, and at the same time, sometimes we can jump to decisions or discernment or judgments that may or may not be 100% accurate. But then also, we want to make sure that we understand that when we have a really strong intuition, or our empath self is really dialed into something, that there's a lot of validity in it, even if we can't see it. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you want to be more empowered, it takes investment in yourself. It takes investment in understanding the nuance of how your nervous system, how your emotions, how your intuition speak to you, and then what to do with it. and how to bring your own inner guidance, your own inner wisdom forward into the world. So that one of the ways we do it is we pay attention and we observe and listen, and then we speak. And we allow the pace of whatever we're doing to be maybe led by another in some situations. If they're moving a little slower than us, it's okay to breathe and move a little slower with them. It's really quite fascinating. And so I've practiced this a lot in my life, allowing myself to be more empowered by being the observer, by being the person who's pacing with the other people, by allowing myself to sit and see, to notice what's happening, to move without necessarily announcing it to the whole world, and make sure my eye contact is healthy and that my boundaries are clear and my intentions are clear, and that those kinds of things are transparent and obvious, because in those moments we are living in our state of empowerment, and that's the goal, especially right now in a world that is not necessarily empowering those that have different viewpoints or are very intuitive or very empathic, or people who can see beyond the veil, right? See beyond whatever the dance is that's going on. And so to be more empowered takes sometimes patience, takes sometimes knowing when to speak and when not to speak. It takes sometimes how to respect position and how to respect certain laws, if you will, of nature that may or may not align with what's going on in the worldview. There's so many things to think about. So I want to encourage you to focus on your empowerment every day, to focus on moving in silence and making sure your eye contact is clean and that your boundaries are crystal clear, starting with your inner boundaries. And then to make sure you show respect first to yourself and then to others. So if you make a mistake out there or you're judging someone else harshly, I would suggest that you sit down at night, maybe and journal or think about what is it that you disrespect in yourself, because that is where the root cause of that disrespect of another started. And it's not always obvious. And sometimes we have all kinds of excuses, but that's still the situation. So to be empowered, friends, is to be calm and focused, to have clear intention, have clear boundaries, and most importantly, to have deep inner self-respect. So as always, if you want to speak to me about any of these topics or you have questions, feel free to contact me through the links in the show notes, or make a call to talk to me in person, or you can send an email. But I'm always here to support and encourage you to be empowered, to step into who you are, and to be the magnificent person by lighting your inner fire that you've always dreamed of being, and more. So thank you for listening. And remember to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So I invite you to go out there in the world, step into your authority, allow yourself to feel even more empowered each day to be who you're meant to be, unapologetically. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne saying, be well, everybody. Are you tired of searching for someone to understand you? Join our Facebook group, Someone Gets Me. In this group, you will be able to connect with others who are intense, sensitive, smart, and talented. I share my insights and teachings, and you can connect with others in a real, authentic, safe forum. So join us today. Someone Gets Me.